I am recording a video. What is the purpose of the video? Who is the video to? Why is my hair the way it is? Why don't I just cut it? Or let the other side grow to equal length? Why is the world the way it is? Why is the universe the way it is? Well, perhaps we can create some dialogue that may or may not answer certain questions, but not as a means so much to answer, but as a means to release what might help us beyond a need for questions. As valid as they are at different times, they can also become our hindrance. So, I would like to say that our feelings, our thoughts, our identity, our physical conditions of body, of circumstance, all tell a story, a valid story, one that, well, has the opportunity to experience what life is like. As much as some of us would say most of life is death, is anti-life, at least on planet Earth. So, what I would like to say is what I feel, what I think, and what I am at my current level, so that I might be able to play with other levels that some of you might have, or not, but let us begin the little playwright. That's a term for a type of person. I don't usually think of those terms, though. That term in that way, but a person that writes plays. So, what do I feel? I feel the will to say, how can life be better? Is that avoiding the question of how I feel, of addressing certain personal experiences? Depending on how you look at it, perhaps, but the world will say that I'm not ready to make this video. And in my mind, I am aware that there are certain gears, like a car, and in order to get to the higher gears, you need to go into the lower gear. And what allows someone to go into a lower gear? Well, a person needs food, needs clothing, it needs shelter, it needs other utilities, amenities, it needs a certain amount of rights. To share oneself without putting down others. So, how does one obtain these things? Well, they share or express a product or a service in exchange for currency. And where does the currency come from? Well, it comes from the people who elect institutions, representatives, various instruments in order to procure that medium of exchange. Even though we can create an artificial bubble from which money is created without actually having much value or any value at the onset of a certain quantity of currency creation. This message is about how to go into first gear. And this phone that I'm holding, being able to record my voice, my thoughts, my emotions, my identity, my behavior patterns, I would call it micro-behavioral patterns, able to record my environment that I'm in. It is important for me to say that going into first gear does require a certain will to say what is dark, what is, how shall I say, hard, what is difficult, what is hostile, what is trying to pervert, what is trying to poison the natural evolution of life, cooperating with life, sharing unconditionally. The experiences we have without trying to change the experiences of others. And so there are a variety of different aspects of what is considered dark, what is considered hard, what is considered of the inversion of principles that favor the evolution of life. And so this phenomenon must be addressed. And a lot of us know of the corruption in the financial institution known as the economy, the government, religion, science being so intellectually focused without considering human beings and their consciousness and how that can create devices that transform energy or step down energy so that we don't have to rely on force-based technology, from oil to coal, and to some degree splitting the atom. What stops us from going into first gear? It is a fear of power imbalance. It is a fear, as someone might said, of our own power and how magnificent our own power might be. The fear of, how shall I say, becoming the spotlight of attention. The fear is often considered the mother of poison, of hatred, of power imbalance. And a lot of us in our daily lives find it difficult to keep going because of a certain pressure for people to work harder while receiving less. And there's also, so I said that. And why is that? Well, for eons, humanity has often been encumbered by certain religious and spiritual traditions that have, how shall I say, a system of egotism, where if you don't believe, let me take a step back here. And breathe. So often religions are trying to portray that God is in the sky and that God needs worship. And if you don't worship, you are evil. And in some form, you need to be punished. Especially if you talk about other gods. And so, how can we today express ourselves into first gear? Yes, we need to talk about the power imbalance. We need to talk about, perhaps, the tendencies in ourselves where we have attempted to try to change and convince others to a particular belief system. So what I'm saying is kind of already known, but not completely. And so, as one is able to address the dark, the fear, the hate, the exploitation, the corruption, the synthetic nature of modern markets, huge corporations, making competition scarce for small businesses, there is often a level of information that is not discussed, that is about consciousness, being inside, that has the capacity to shift its form to something new, that is interconnected between all life forms, plant, mineral, animal, race, planet, star, sun, system, galaxy. But how can people go into first gear when they're struggling to feed their family, when they're struggling with 2 jobs? Perhaps there's a single parent who has multiple children, who is not finding that child support is enough. Who are finding other programs is enough. And a lot of times it does feel like that there aren't many outlets that people can go to in order to see how they can share their gift that is based in human rights, that is based in creativity, that is based in goodwill, that we may be able to distribute the resources of the earth in equality. in the measure that the earth is all of ours? And how is it that only a select few is able to hoard and waste resources? How is that? How is that happening? Are they more special? Are they stronger? Are they smarter? Are they quicker? Are they more consistent, vigilant, determined, disciplined? I'm going to sit down. Judging my hair. That's okay. For every new style, it will take time to adjust to. And that's the way it is throughout time. So, how can the average person find a way up? And the measure throughout time that determines a way up is knowledge of a particular kind. I am so incredibly judging myself right now. That's better. Knowledge of a particular kind that acknowledges how history has been twisted to support the winners, the conquerors, the victors, those deceivers and manipulators of money, of war, of dogma, and even to some degree theory. And the equation that everyone is being called to today is to share knowledge that does not polarize us between another group, but that seeks to bring even the most narcissistic, the most negligible, into an opportunity of human-centered rehabilitation, where even the most corrupt are given a way to redemption. But this would require a change in our punitive system. And it is very hard for people to imagine how people who have done so many heinous things could receive a way out that is based in a process of psycho-spiritual analysis, using different instruments and different teachers, select bodies of knowledge, to procure a treatment back into principles of goodwill, of humanitarian interest, of selfless freedom for the benefit of the whole. So what is coming up for me right now is people are being called to receive information. What is this thing? It's a net. Why is there a net there? Well, to keep mosquitoes out of your space. Did I feel that I had to say that? Otherwise, I would have not been able to continue talking because your attention was so distracted by something that you were not aware of. And because you were not aware of it, it took up more of your attention. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Nor was it wrong of me to feel the need to address what it is without continuing to talk. So I feel many things. I feel that it is the responsibility of a government to provide an internet that connects people who are in local areas to people that have similar talents, but also that connect people locally of different talents. And there are certain private companies that are trying to experiment with this. And in the Western world, there's more awareness about some of these technologies that are able to share the uniqueness we as individuals have. But there also needs to be a system that connects people to work opportunities. And I believe this system is on its way. It's going to take time. How long will depend on how many people take a stand for this new system. It isn't communism, where everyone's forced into a particular work, but there is a system that gives people a range of different services and products they can be involved with. And in order to receive universal basic income, they do have to be providing something. But everyone, I think there are levels to UBI, and this can sound very theoretical as I'm speculating on things, and that's okay. But everyone should be entitled to having opportunity to have their needs. And it is the role of the government to protect the people and to ensure they have what they need. And it may look like the government is a long ways away from being able to fulfill its responsibilities. But depending on how many people take a stand for a system that does not polarize others, but that seeks to expose trends that small groups of people clustered together within institutions, often wanting to remove the inherent right, the inherent consciousness, the inherent power that each of us have, just as an individual, can change the face of a world. The face of the world. If those individuals are willing to acknowledge the world inside of them, the universe inside of them. And that sounds kind of airy-fairy, but this is what has been essentially the base principle throughout all secret societies, throughout even the religions. When I say all secret societies, I should provide an exception to those who are based in cults and Satanism, Luciferianism, cynicism, and that sort. But I feel as I'm talking, there is something in my mind that is saying, you have to talk about something that has real world value. You cannot be talking around different points because, well, that isn't going to get you what you need. And then my response is, well, what do I need? Do I need food, shelter, and clothing? Well, no, not at this time, but you will need it. And this is a correct statement, I will need it. And no matter how positive and benevolent and visionary I am in sharing ideas, that won't necessarily stop the system from withholding. What is a fair return? Why should the system be obligated to give me a return financially that provides for my basic needs based on these ethereal ideas and these rounded rhythms of talking that don't seem to detail in specific a particular field that then can be raised up to another level based on your willingness to discuss it in detail. And there is always going to be a counterclaim. And those who feel in their own heart will know whether I'm trying to raise the whole or put down the whole. What whole are you talking about? The whole of your buttocks? And so let those with eyes and ears see and hear what I see and hear from what I share. So, moving forward, I believe this recording, if I am the only one viewing this recording, even if I post it on the internet and I am the only one who's the one that witnesses it, I believe this is connected to the whole of humanity. This video is not isolated from someone in Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Yemen, Bangladesh, Tibet, Bolivia, Chile, Alaska, Tahiti, from Chicago, or what's that place called in Los Angeles? Skid Row, Hong Kong, the Urals in East Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Iran, India. Of course, I can continue to list names off, and the world's like, you're just wasting time. And the world has the right to project its version of perception until a time comes when a critical mass of people say, we do not accept hatred, we do not accept superiority over another just because they are sharing what they feel is their experience. Well, someone sharing their experience should not be allowed to disinform or manipulate information away from reality. Because then that would affect other people to having less opportunity to have a better life. So the world continues. There's always a counterclaim to everything that's said. I will take a deep breath. And so, what do I have to say? It is understandable that many people seek out work or start their own enterprise. But a lot of people are oftentimes just trying to find work. Upper class, middle class, lower class work, whatever the case may be, however much money, wage or salary, contract, stipend it may be. And there are trends of people trying to create their own small business. It is still becoming increasingly more difficult because of the inequality, the exploitation, and the financial corruption that designates money away from the people and to the power brokers who are wanting to make a quick buck by creating artificial scarcity. And this is a type of war that is equal to a war of weapons of mass destruction. No, the world says. That type of war is way worse than this type of elusive and elusive description you are giving of our financial world, of our economy. So anyways, the world will go on to say that everything about this video is unprofessional. From my appearance, to my dress, to my style, to my environment, to my posture, to the subjects discussed, and how they are discussed, in arbitrary or abstract ways. That is the world. That chooses separation, division, and polarization, not cooperation, unity, and humanity. So, the hardest message to share is how can life be better given our own circumstances or in our own consciousness. And so there is a necessity to work within both, so that there might be an equation that is a net positive in the short term for individual life and for the community that we are in, and then over time for the world, even though that's a long-term phenomenon. So the world will say delete this video, or it will say you need to edit this video. That's fine. What is important for me to talk about? Well, transparency, sharing what is going on the inside. And this world is ruthless. This world is aggressive. It is brutal. It doesn't care how positive and creative and artistic and intelligent, kind, compassionate you are. The systems built into the world will continually put down and exploit and try to destroy everyone, especially those who are trying to really paint a picture that acknowledges how there is an elite in our world that works in coordination with the egos of the people, of the individuals, of the people. And so the baseline is that things change for the better when people can talk about how the elite came to be and how it continues to maintain its superiority, and how the individual reinforces the ego to which it wants to paint a picture that it doesn't take responsibility and projects others to being the ones to determine a better system, or that an individual will take very extreme measures of responsibility that often polarize people, us versus them, rich versus poor, good versus evil, so that there might be forms of extreme punishment, extreme interactivity that often has hostility and anger at the base of interactions. And so the how should I say, the missing variable is that each of us have consciousness that can be attuned like a radio or like an instrument to a certain frequency that allows us to rehabilitate ourselves, work on ourselves, do practices, engage in work that helps the earth, that helps other people, and then we can go to the other side of our development, where we can increase our level of service and our level of learning to where they both become one. And how do they both become one? Well, we recognize that our effort to help ourselves and to help others is one. For there is no separation, there is no distance at the fundamental level between all of us. Yes, we may all look different, we may all have different skills, different backgrounds, different stories, different beliefs, different cultures. Hell, maybe some of us are from different planets. But essentially, we're all from the same source. And so, this recording I designate to the mirror, the universal light substance that takes whatever we put in and then expresses it back out in a way that we may not be able to comprehend, that we may not be able to understand, that we may not see as perhaps even just or fair, in a world where we require a lot of diligent resources to maintain our body, to maintain our health and our spirit, which could all be one. I am in a house. I am in a room. And I feel that it can be hard to express what is on the inside, because it does not necessarily seem that what will come back, what will be the result, is something dynamic, intangible, to the point where I can say, wow, I can make this my job. So, a lot of people might have this as a utopian ideal, that, oh, they can just share themselves, and that will provide. And for a very select few, it does provide. Perhaps up until a certain time, or maybe they're able to continue to the end of their life doing something along those lines. But they also, on some level, are experiencing the world and the combinations and complexities of the world, in which, if people do not take a stand, if they do not speak to people, in which they might be able to say that, oh, when they're recording a video and they upload it to social media, they are sharing themselves to other people they don't know. And though there's some truth to this, the systems on the internet are not entirely, well, I'll just say the social media on the internet is not favorable to those who are expressing ideas outside of the Overton window, outside public opinion, outside the mainstream status quo, which presupposes that God is not everything, and that technology is not everything. And that war and disease and environmental disaster and economic breakdown, civilization collapse, is not a product of free will. So, is there anything else that I would like to share? It's understandable that people may, let's say, isolate themselves from interacting with a variety of people whom they don't know, on a basis to help raise the material and spiritual or psychological condition of the individual. Oftentimes, it's not encouraged in businesses or in work environments to combine the two. And sometimes your job may be threatened, as my job, as I've worked before, has been threatened for trying to do so. And so what do I have to say? There is a definite need in this world for people to set up an exchange in their local community for ways in which we can elevate our situation, ourself, our greater community, out of the ruckus, or the wreck that is currently increasing, and a lot of people paint a type of dystopia that is ahead, involving advanced forms of technology, advanced forms of inequality, advanced forms of carnal desires and pleasures, luxuries, forms of escapism. And for a lot of people, that dystopia has already happened and is currently happening. How many people experiencing this is too many people? That is what we are deciding. As the clock continues to tick. Where are people going to get assistance, subsidies, grants, funding for creating an exchange that raises the bar, that raises the whole, that innovates and brings in ideas that are not so far-fetched from the average individual and those individuals who are very much hurting, being able to receive concrete help that addresses deeply spiritual imbalances, traumas, fear, addictions, and resources withheld from their government, which ultimately is the people. But it is also a select few that the people elect. And so that is what we're all dealing with. And so I know most of the world will probably not see this video as something that they find a lot of value in, much value in. Probably there's a lot of people that will say this video is trash. That's okay. The question is, how can we provide an exchange on the local level and on a cyber level, which is in some ways international, but our local environments are connected to all places internationally by ways of roads, by ways of the ocean, by ways of vehicles, by ways of others, even though there may not be others. So life is a riddle. And even if you know that, it doesn't necessarily make life easy. A lot of us are just trying to find an outlet. And a lot of us are just trying to find income. No matter how much we express goodwill. There are certain stages of every individual where they will be called to focus on themselves and then focus on others more broadly. And when people are working, oftentimes, they are, on some level, doing both. But a lot of people have forgotten that there may be a way to raise the level of life in that work environment we are in by speaking out about what is not working, what is suppressive, what is exploitive, what is manipulative, without trying to subjugate another group of people as the ultimate problem or as the ultimate saviors. That's not an easy thing to do, for it often requires knowledge of the ancient knowledge, and those people who are intuitive today, who are able to see the science behind ancient knowledge and how technology is only as good as its ability to serve people so that they can increase their consciousness, their understanding of life, and their service to life. This will probably seem like a very weird video. That's okay, because not all of us are always meant to be the same or normal. And so what can people do to provide an exchange that is supportive of better conditions and a better spirit? Well, I've said what can be said between the lines. As far as further lines that can be expressed upon, is leadership. I'm so judging my hair right now. Did I make it worse? God, I love my hair. Though it may be needed to be combed in the eyes of many, I accept disorder. I accept imperfection. I accept not having to live up to the expectations of others all the time. And sure, we always, in some ways, want to look decent. But anyways, I have shared my piece. And for now, I will end the video, and I'm grateful that what I have shared will return back in various ways, in various forms, various times in which I probably will be unaware of. But each time we share, we are shifting the equation. And depending on what our intentions are when we do share, we can shift it for the benefit of the people or for the benefit of the elite. And so I felt like, well, the world will say, oh no, you're not doing your piece, you're making things worse for yourself and other people by not perhaps, going out and receiving money, providing something that other people can accept. Because most people won't accept this, and thus you will not receive money, and thus you're making your life worse. And it's understandable why I might not in a variety of cases, because there is so much exploitation, so much abuse, so much suppression, and so many types of work. And there is an intuitive prompting that says life and resources and material conditions do get better as people can share themselves in a universal way that may not be this knight on a white horse proclaiming the equations and the theories and the revelations and the seeming grandiose perspectives that inspire people to come together and share a higher truth, a higher understanding that prompts them to form a union, a movement, an organization that builds leadership through a variety of ways. That's okay. I'm grateful for what I have shared, and I believe life is better because of that. Even though life in its essence cannot be better or worse, because it is always unadulterated, it is always pure, it is always incomparable, indivisible. And so, the great riddle of life continues on. I would like to say thank you. I would like to say I am thankful for this technology that's in my hands, for this space that I feel safe or free to express what I have expressed. I am thankful for the others who have helped give me the vital nutrition and resources that have allowed me to feel that I can share this. The world's saying, oh, you're not providing specific names. There's always something the world has to say. And that's what it is. I'm not here to say the world should be bound. And yet I am sort of saying that the world should be bound. until the world is ready to distribute the resources that are all equally ours fairly. And so, in between when that happens and now, we all have some capacity to share something that brings up what we are capable of and how things can shift when we can acknowledge what is not working and what is trying to manipulate the various institutions, the various industries, the various fields from acknowledging the universal force that animates all forces into a continuous evolution that can never really ultimately be destroyed, but really only transformed. Glory to the one universal light substance that is always mirroring back what we are putting in. Through all of our lifetimes, through all of civilizations, we are reaping what we are sowing. And so it is.